Hey everybody, go blue. Michigan officially three-peats against Ohio State. And now the showdown is set in Indy, Michigan versus Iowa. We're going to bring it all to you next on Michigan Wolverines Live. And everybody, welcome into the show. Today's Tuesday, November 28th, 2023. I'm John Diadamo, and I'm going to be your host for the next hour or so. Apologies for the slight delay. Sometimes tech hiccups happen, and we're working on it behind the scenes. We got that. We got the North Pole and the elves going on, in the background. But really quick before we bring on our guests, just a quick reminder to please like, subscribe, and share this with a friend. Let people know that we're officially live on both the Michigan channel and the Iowa channel at the Voice of College Football. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on our guests. So we've got Tanner Wooten in the house from Blue by 90. Tanner, welcome back as always. Go Blue.
Go Blue.
And we got to show everybody the shirt. Got to do it.
Again. We need my camera. There we go. We need again. This right here. I don't know. Maybe I get 2023 screen printed on at the bottom of this somehow when they win on Saturday, but we'll figure that out.
It's still very usable.
Yeah, I don't want to count my chickens where they hatch. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And we do also have joining us Elliot Clough, who is Iowa recruiting analyst at Rivals. Elliot, welcome to Michigan Wolverines Live, man.
Gentlemen, I would love to be on camera with you. Like we were just talking about, I've never had this issue with StreamYard before, but happy to be on mic at the very least, and hopefully we can keep it going throughout the show.
Absolutely. So obviously we've got a championship game. So we're going to do is we'll start with the Iowa preview. And then what the second half of the show will cover the game and kind of the kind of a little bit of a wrap up of that as well. So Tanner gets to give his perspective because I believe you were there, right?
Yeah, perspective's one way to one word to use. I've got some things to say. I don't know. Are there going to be many? I came into I was lit up when I came into your show and commented. I said, "Where are all the Buckeyes at?" So I caught a lot of flack.
You were ready for
Elliot, man. I come on this show. I've been on this show probably 10 or 11 times this season. I try to come on with John as much as I can. I caught a lot of flack from Ohio State fans throughout the year. So I'm just wondering if the same gentlemen and the same icons that I saw every single Tuesday are going to be here. So forgive me if I'm a little out there right now, but I'm fired up and I'm ready to talk about the Iowa game, but I've got some things on my chest I need to get off.
Absolutely. So obviously Big Ten championship game, Michigan 12-0, favored by 23, Iowa 10-2. The over under on this game's 35.5. And obviously I did, Elliot, I know you tweeted about this, but the breaking news is it sounds like Caleb Brown is going to be back for the championship game.
Caleb Brown is back and healthy. Also expected to see starter at center Logan Jones and another wide receiver back and healthy, Deontay Vines, who has missed, I believe, the last 2 games for the Hawkeyes, one of the more seasoned vets at wide receiver. But Caleb Brown, definitely the main thing that we're looking at here as impacting the game. Tyler Ellsbury's been great backing up Logan Jones and Deontay Vines. He's been more impactful than previous seasons, mostly just because he's been able to stay healthy. But Caleb Brown, he can affect the game in so many different ways. Just his ability, especially just to make plays in open space. They've been really focusing on getting him the ball, especially on like receiver screens and even on end arounds, which is very much a Brian Ferentz special. But Caleb Brown back is huge because this offense just doesn't have a lot of playmakers like him for a variety of reasons. One being injuries, 2 being playmakers like that don't generally end up at Iowa.
Absolutely. So to kind of paint the picture, Kirk Ferentz said in the press conference, we've won a couple of games like this. I think he said something about if we win, it'll mess up the Big Ten or the college football playoff, and that would be funny. I think he's having a little fun with it. But there have been historical examples of Iowa pulling out an upset, not just against Michigan, but against the Ohio State Buckeyes, which I very much enjoyed that game. So just high level, like where you see the Michigan or the Iowa like coaches and players in terms of being locked in. I heard Cade on an interview as well. He's going to share what he knows to Iowa, all of his secrets. So where do things stand?
Well, in terms of preparation, they're really just approaching it like they are the underdogs. They won't exactly. A couple of them will say that. A couple of the guys we did talk to did say that, specifically Nico Ragaini said, "Yeah, we're embracing it. It seems like nobody wants us to win." I don't know if you guys can get the gauge on this, but it almost seems like people don't want to see Iowa win, like just generally. Obviously, the Michigan fan base doesn't, because Michigan wants to win this game, right? They want to go back to the college football playoff and do some damage there. But it just kind of seems like, generally speaking, folks want to root against Iowa. Obviously, they just don't play football that's particularly exciting. And they've embraced it. They really have, especially with all these injuries and I mean, their quarterback going down, their two top tight ends going down. They don't get Noah Shannon. Their most explosive player, Cooper DeJean, goes down a couple weeks ago with that injury. And you just kind of have to embrace it at this point. And the only reason they've won 10 games is because they've embraced it, in my opinion. I mean, you got a quarterback who had at one point the most turnover-worthy plays in all of college football. He was completing like 36% of his passes. He's since flipped that to 63 roughly over these last few games. Caleb Brown finally making plays at this point in time. But I mean, it's largely a way for them to continue to push forward, I think, at least mentally, despite all of the setbacks that they've faced this season, which is plenty. And they should have 11 wins. They shouldn't have 10 wins. They should have 11 wins.
Yeah, that fair catch. I didn't think it was a good call, personally. I haven't heard a lot of people defend it.
It was a terrible call, because I just don't understand how referees can't have context. Like, yeah, we're fans and I watched the Penn State game where Cooper DeJean's teammates did not listen to him, and they ran directly into the ball on the punt to give the ball back to Penn State. So he's very clearly over exaggerating his hand motion, but it never goes above his head. He's waving the ball off. Like, that is, I don't understand how we get that wrong in what is now a multi-billion-dollar business that is college football. Like, there should be no reason that we have refs that are this bad consistently.
To have to go to the overhead view and to justify that call. I'm not sure if you guys saw or heard that quote from the Big Ten head of officials, but that doesn't sound like indisputable evidence to me. And I try to approach games, especially Iowa games, with an objective point of view, because that's my role as a journalist. Sure. But that was just absolutely atrocious. And I mean, I was on the field. We get to go on the field during the final few minutes of the game at Iowa games, and I was down there with a few of the other guys, Adam Jacoby, who's also with our rival site, and we were obviously freaking out. Like, that was just an insane play, objective journalist or not. You have to just enjoy that. One, because it was insane. Two, I actually went to the same high school as Cooper did. He's 5 years. Yeah. Small world. 5 years younger than me. So I never really interacted with him, but like, his dad was my middle school basketball, football, and track coach. So I know the family, and to see something like that happen for somebody from OABCIG high school in Iowa was pretty wild. But yeah, nonetheless, it was not a fair catch. And I see a comment over here by some individual saying I was also 24 points from being 4-8. Well, they're not 4-8, and that's the style of ball they play. They win those games. So
my advice is try to ignore the comments. They will. There are a couple of select individuals who may try to bait you.
Okay.
Sometimes it works on me, but I'm not a journalist, Elliot, so I don't have to abide by the the unbiased take. I make sure that I'm not a journalist when it comes to this stuff, because I have been a Michigan fan. I don't want to intertwine the two.
Yeah,
but
I like Erica's. So Erica's a friend of the program. Obviously, a big fan of Iowa and Corey Brad. She's on Corey Bratta's show as well, and hangs out there. We shouldn't have been in that position, but it was still a bad call. I like that take because
That's
like
a reasonable take.
I've said the same thing about the spot in 2016. Same thing. Like shouldn't have been in that position to start with. You could say, you can debate that, you could chop it up from any angle, but like, ref calls go both ways. As we witnessed, we had one go our way with the Roman Wilson, which I think was pretty clearly a touchdown, but that was the source of some debate. So these things happen on both sides. The ball's shaped funny, and ref calls go both ways. So,
he was short though. JT. He was short.
So from the offense perspective, what I try to do is understand, all angles of what we as Michigan fans should be looking out for as far as impact players on both sides of the ball. So on the offense side, we talked about Caleb Brown, and your quarterback, he reminds me of like a 1960s era fullback. I mean, the dude is the dude is like early Big Ben or something.
He's a big dude, man. And that has not actually been as beneficial as it could be in the ways that is beneficial for Iowa this year. There's been several scenarios where Iowa's on or near the 50, and it's 4th and 1, 4th and 2, and they don't actively do the QB sneak with a guy who's 260 pounds back there. And that is essentially an Iowa special. So do with that what you will. Even though he's that big, he's more mobile than Cade was when he was dealing with the thigh injury, just because Cade was so hampered by that. So that's been a positive over the last few weeks. Pocket awareness is definitely lacking. You throw that in addition with the size, and that's definitely a difficulty for him. It's something that I think comes with experience, one, but two, he's just not a big guy. I mean, sorry, he is a big guy, and that makes it a little bit more difficult to avoid the pass rushers. Additionally, ball security was an issue for a couple weeks in a row with him. I think it was the Minnesota game where he fumbled twice, and also he was throwing, like I said, quite a bit of turnover-worthy plays. He was had the most turnover-worthy plays in all of college football. I saw the bootlegs get mentioned. That's something that Iowa has done and is doing a lot to try to get him on the move, able to get out of the pocket so he doesn't have to worry about that, and to get rid of the ball and have space to get rid of it. Against, I think it was Illinois. It was either Illinois or Rutgers. There was like a 3rd and 8 or inside Iowa's 20, Rutgers or Illinois' 25, and he scrambled for the first down too. So he's not hefty lefty out there. He can get on his horse a little bit from time to time. He's not exactly, I would definitely call him the opposite of dual threat, but he can get out of the pocket and maneuver a little bit here and there as well.
What would you say about, so I'm Caleb Johnson, he's healthy, right?
Yes. Yep. That's been a little bit limited for him this year just because Le'Shawn Williams has stepped up and played really good ball. Jazz Patterson had a good start to the season, then had an ankle injury, and he's not really been super effective since then. Okay. He's definitely a downhill runner. There was this play last week at Nebraska prior to Drew Stevens having one of his 2 field goals blocked, where I thought Jazz had a lane on the outside. If he got to the sideline and bursted towards the end zone, it would have been a touchdown, but he ran at a Nebraska defender and tried to run him over instead. And that's kind of Jazz Patterson's style. Le'Shawn Williams has adopted that a little bit, but he's significantly more shifty. And he doesn't really have that breakaway speed like a Caleb Johnson, but he's able to find creases and make what would be a 2-3 yard gain for Caleb Johnson a 6 or 7 yard gain for Le'Shawn Williams. So Williams has been moved up the depth chart throughout the season to that number 1 spot. Johnson moved down because of injuries and some of those things. Once Johnson gets into the open field, it's scary for the opposing defense. But Le'Shawn Williams is RB1 right now for Iowa.
Okay. Le'Shawn Williams. I remember Kirk even saying something like, because he was asked about it at a press conference a few weeks ago, if I recall correctly, and he basically just said it's a meritocracy, and he lost out on being the starter.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
it's kind of like Harbaugh, same thing, meritocracy.
Right. I think Caleb Johnson is the most talented running back in that room, but it's about what he does with it.
Absolutely.
There are definitely times where he could use his weight when he doesn't. His ability to find creases, like I mentioned, just isn't quite as good as Le'Shawn's. But he is the most talented running back in that room, and I wouldn't say it's not close, but everybody knows that he's the most talented running back in that room.
Yeah, and in terms of obviously, offense, we know, Iowa's had some ups and downs on offense, and obviously Brian Ferentz will no longer be with the program next year. However, you do have, I would argue, a top maybe 6 to 8 defense in the entire country. And so with that said, obviously, you guys have had some games where you've really needed that defense and to pull off the win. And they've been able to score and everything else. I mean, are there some people on defense that you like and you think might make some plays in the game?
Well, the first one that comes to mind would have been Cooper DeJean. Easy, far and away, not close, right? Like if he were healthy, it would be Coop, and it'd be Coop first and foremost. But secondarily, you have to look at the Mike linebacker for Iowa in Jay Higgins, who was absolutely snubbed from being a finalist for the Butkus Award. He leads a Power 5 in tackling. I think he has upwards of 140 tackles right now. Following that game against Nebraska, could finish the season with 160. I mean, he's a double-digit tackle machine, and I don't see it going any different, especially against Michigan, who is so heavy in the run game. It's where everything starts for them with Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards, et cetera. But that's where I'd point to first. Jay Higgins, first-year starter at Mike linebacker. He's in his 4th year, but he's just burst onto the scene and been really, really good in that Mike linebacker spot. Second person I think of is Sebastian Castro, who plays that cash linebacker, defensive back. It's kind of a nickel, but it's called cash within the Iowa's defense. He is who I really liked what I've seen from him as of late. The dude, the reason he wasn't seeing the field early on in his career is because he fired like a missile to where he thought he should be, but wasn't as familiar as to where he should be within the defense. And now he knows. And when he fires somewhere, he's going to pop you, and he's going to pop you in the mouth. He's had a couple interceptions this year, interception against Wisconsin that sealed it, pick 6 against Iowa State. Should have had an interception a couple weeks ago. I think that was against Illinois. That would have really sealed it. But he's playing at a really high level this year, and he should be in the NFL next year, in my opinion. I think at the very least, he's going to make an impact on special teams. The following name, or there's another name in there that I think of right away, and right now, and it's the other linebacker position, Nick Jackson, transfer from Virginia. Since Cooper's been out, there's been more of an emphasis. Again, players won't exactly say this, but there's been more of an emphasis on pressuring the quarterback to try to get the ball out early, as opposed to letting Deshaun Lee, who is now in for Cooper, sit out there in coverage. They're trying to get the ball out. They're trying to put pressure on the quarterback. And Nick Jackson, if you've seen his highlights from this year at all, or from from Virginia, sideline to sideline linebacker. He was the Mike for Virginia. Now he's in the Will position for Iowa, the Will linebacker position. And he's really figured out, like Sebastian Castro, where he's supposed to be, when he's supposed to be there. And that dude flies around the field, loves to hit. They've been using him in blitz packages as of late a lot. I think that addition was probably, given all the injuries that have happened to this point in the year, the most important player they brought in via the portal this last year, because he's just been all over the place. And then lastly, it's Jamari Harris, who has that experience at this in this game. Missed all of last year with an injury. I think he has a couple picks this year, and I think had 4 pass breakups against Illinois. Something wild. So there, maybe that again, Illinois and Rutgers kind of run together for me in a few ways.
I was going to bring up Rutgers actually, and I don't know, Tanner, if you caught any highlights of that game or heard about, but it was 22-0, right? And Iowa actually scored 400 yards of offense in that game, and shut out Rutgers, which Rutgers has a defense. You can say what you want about them offensively, but they have a defense. They're making a bowl game. So that to me was kind of like, oh, okay, Iowa might be down some players, but they still can ball.
Sorry, was that for me or Tanner?
We can start with Tanner.
Yeah. I didn't think we were going to talk about Rutgers anymore, but here we are. We talked about them enough this year, but no, I did not catch that. But I will say my wife is a Nebraska grad. She's an alum of the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. And I've told her that I will no longer root for Nebraska football while Matt Rule is the coach there, but that's neither here nor there. But while watching that Nebraska-Iowa game, oh my God, how do y'all do it, man? Like I would have had a heart attack, like to throw a pick, and then Nebraska comes and throws a pick to lead to the game-winning field goal. I mean, just unbelievable. But the defense is, I love defense, man. I love a good defensive game. But
then that's the game for you.
Well, there was some offensive ineptitude in there as well, John. But they find a way to win, man. At the end of the day, that's what Iowa does. They find a way to win. So, just thinking about it from the Michigan perspective and watching some Iowa games this year, they should have probably lost to Michigan State, and Cooper DeJean bails them out. There's probably a couple other games you could throw in there, but they find a way to get it done. And that's what Kirk Ferentz talks about. That's how they play football. Mm-hmm. And Jim Harbaugh knows that too, because he's mentioned in his, whether it's a press conference or his one-on-one interviews with Brad Galea here in the Detroit media, talking about Iowa. And it's like, you can say what you want about them, but they find ways to win football games. And that's sometimes just a trait of a really well-coached team. Yep. Maybe not in one of the 3 phases, but it's still a team that can go and cause issues for you offensively with that defense. And their special teams is always elite. Like Michigan-Iowa was always an elite special teams matchup. So when Michigan got the block punt on Iowa 2 years ago, I was so pumped because Iowa's special teams are always at the top of the advanced metrics. So, for Michigan, this is a game where they're going to have to come ready to play because it's not going to be Iowa rolling over and showing their belly. Like, they're going to fight because they have a chance to win a Big Ten championship. And it's probably one of the last times that they're going to have, with these 4 new schools coming in, like, this is going to be one of those chances aren't going to be as often for Iowa, right? Like, no disrespect, but it's going to be a lot more difficult with those 4 West Coast teams coming in, as it is for everybody in the Big Ten. Like, Michigan's got a crazy schedule next year. So, for Iowa, they're going to be ready to go, man. And Kirk Ferentz is a hell of a football coach. So you can't take it for granted. You got to go out there and play.
Absolutely. Elliot, from your perspective, we always like to try to understand the keys to the game. Like, what would Iowa need to do to pull off what they did in 2016 and beat Michigan?
Yeah. There's a lot has to go right for Iowa and a lot has to go wrong for Michigan. I think if you were to put it simply, that would be it right there. But Iowa the defense has to turn the ball over. Deacon Hill cannot throw an interception, can't put the ball on the ground. And you got to get J.J. McCarthy off his spot, which is more difficult because he has the ability to run the ball. You have to dominate special teams. And that's something that I was thinking of as Tanner was talking about special teams being elite at Iowa. That sentiment is generally true. Torrey Taylor is the best punter in the country. He is going to be sorely missed by the Iowa fan base. Every time they announce the starters at the home games, Torrey Taylor gets the largest ovation, and he did at senior day this year. Regarding the kicking game specifically, Drew Stevens had the worst game of his career at Iowa last week. Worst game. 2 blocked field goals. I think they had a game ago. He had a special teams, or excuse me, a PAT get blocked. He's 10 of 17 over the last 2 months. That's less than 60%. That's a failing grade. That's an F. And that's why Marshall Meter came in at the end of the game last week and booted that kick. Their backup kicker, transfer from Central Michigan, hits the 38-yarder to beat Nebraska. But not only that, Drew kicked 2 balls out of bounds on kickoffs in that game. He has had a rough go of it. I can't pinpoint anything. I mean, that's probably the coldest game he's played in his Iowa career. Deacon Hill, who's from California, said, yeah, that's the coldest game I've ever played in. Last week, Iowa's had some luck in terms of weather over these last few weeks, with it being November. But special teams, what is typically a guaranteed net positive for Iowa on special teams, you can't count on that right now. And that's one of many reasons that Iowa fans are concerned going into this game. I think Michigan's offense is much better. Their defense, they've just got talent. Special teams is great. Like, Iowa has to execute in ways that they typically – there are a few plays a game where it's like, oh, Iowa could have won by 21. And they haven't made those plays. Like last week, they could have gone into halftime 21-0 over Nebraska. Those plays have to be made. Nico Ragaini dropped 2 passes last week. Caleb Brown dropped a touchdown pass.
Yeah,
you can't have that happen against a team like Michigan. Michigan, clearly the best team Iowa has played all year. The second best team, Penn State, they lost to 31-0 with all their guys healthy, more or less.
Yeah, I will lob it to Tanner to give the alternate, what the Michigan keys are. But I will say, Michigan's had these games. I hate bringing up TCU, and I'm not saying Iowa's TCU, but like there were a lot of chippy comments about TCU's not physical enough and all this stuff. There was disrespect going on, not from me, but there were definitely some little whispers of it here and there. And so I just don't see this particular veteran team with everything else that's happened. Like, they've been so locked in this year. I just don't see them making that mistake versus Iowa. But Tanner, what do you think, like, in terms of how you see this game?
Yeah, I see it more or less similar to the 2021 Big Ten championship, and not saying it's going to be a 42-3 ball game, but I just don't think that Iowa is going to be able to move the ball consistently enough, and I think their defense eventually will get worn out. I don't know if Michigan's going to come out with some of those trick plays they did 2 years ago with the Donovan Edwards 75-yard touchdown pass, which was maybe the greatest ball anyone's ever thrown in history. It's at least from a running back.
Right.
Like, that was unbelievable. So, I think for Iowa, they're gonna have to cause havoc. They're gonna have to find a way to force Michigan into some turnovers. Special teams, big play here or there. Like, they're not. Like, if you just play it straight up, like, I just don't see a way that Iowa wins the game unless Michigan shoots themselves in the foot. So Iowa has to try to do anything they can to cause turnovers, to cause Michigan to get behind the chains. Like, I don't know what that looks like, but that's Iowa's, I think, only way to win this game is if Michigan really does struggle, with the turnover category. And again, there maybe is a block punt, or with DeJean out, it's like, I could have, if DeJean's playing, then yeah, maybe you have hope for a punt return or something. But I just think that Michigan will be able to get off the field on defense, and I just think that defense for Iowa is really good. But I think similar to the Penn State game where Penn State ran 100 plays. Like, we talked about this. They had 400 yards, but they ran 100 plays to get there. I don't know if that's what it's going to look like for Michigan, but at a certain point, that dam's going to break, right? And I think Michigan's going to be able to score, pull away in the second half. So that's the way that I look at this game. I just don't think they have enough firepower to hang on and to keep their defense off the field, to keep them fresh. Like, that's a big part of it.
There are 2 key things that I would make a distinction on for Iowa from that Penn State game to this game that are positive. And first thing is the offensive line was absolutely atrocious in that game, and they've really figured things out. They're not Iowa of yesteryear where they were monsters up front, among the best in the country, but they are significantly better than they were however many weeks ago. This is probably the best the offensive line has been under George Barnett, because it hasn't been good to this point in time. That's over the last 3 years. And now Caleb Brown is also in the fold. Caleb Brown, they didn't have a playmaker like Caleb Brown however many weeks ago. Granted, they had Eric All. Granted, they had Luke Lachey.
Yeah, they had guys.
Those are three big factors. But they didn't have a player with the playmaking capability of a Caleb Brown that can turn what would be maybe a 2 or 3 yard gain, or maybe a 2 or 3 yard loss on a receiver screen to a Nico Ragaini, to a Deontay Vines, who can make a play out of it. They didn't have that. And now they do in Caleb Brown. And one player that I should have mentioned on the offensive players to watch is Addison Ostrenga, with Lachey and with All out like they have been. He's the now tight end number 1 on their roster. He's just a 5.53 star for Rivals for us. That was before my time. I would have had him ranked higher. It's still a 3-star, but ranked higher than that. He's developed a lot. I think it was a few games ago, targeted 8 times, caught 8 passes. And that's been a pretty typical thing with Ostrenga at that position. He had an incredible block downfield on Caleb Johnson's game-winning touchdown against Illinois. He has really risen to the occasion given all the injuries. And Steven Stilianos had a huge play last week at that other tight end spot. He's been great, especially in blocking. But I really like those two. And you always have to take into effect or take into, what is the phrase, account the tight end when you're playing Iowa, right? Like you have to, no matter who's in that position. I mean, Zach Ortworth, true freshman tight end, had a 54-yard catch against Rutgers that would have been probably a 70-plus yard touchdown a couple weeks ago if Deacon hit him in stride.
Well, Ostrenga is getting some love in the chat, as we are simulcasting at both Michigan football at the Voice of College Football and Iowa football at the Voice of College Football today. So we've got some love for Ostrenga. And we're at that point where we talk predictions. And I will say, I don't think it's going to be quite the 2021 just like curb stomp. I really don't. In part because I think, Michigan, I don't think they're going to do what they did in 2021. I could see it going like the Penn State game. I really could, where in the first half, Michigan did what it needed to do to get up by a couple of touchdowns, and then 7 linemen run the ball. Maybe you do some perimeter runs in there. So that for those reasons, I don't see it being quite as high scoring. The over-under is 35.5, so I do have this at the over, but 34-10 Michigan. Elliot, what? Oh, we lost you. Tanner, what do you think about what might happen here?
I've got 38-3.
38-3. Okay.
Yeah. Sounds mean saying it out loud, but it's what I think.
Elliot?
Yeah, I typically record a preview podcast tomorrow, and that's the first time I say a final score. So I haven't thought about it too in depth, but I'd probably say like 33-6 Michigan. Like, wow. Again, objectivity is what we're talking about here from my vantage point. I could say what would make Iowa fans happy and say, yeah, I'm calling an upset. It's just, I just don't see it. Like, we have to be realistic here when we're talking about this game. I think those 6 points probably come at a later point. I mean, I just have to give credit where credit's due, because this Michigan football team is a damn good football team. and Iowa just isn't there with this offense, with a lame duck offensive coordinator, and without, I think they're maybe what most people consider their three best players: Cooper, Luke, and then Eric, which you could say otherwise with Jay Higgins and some of the other guys that are making plays out there. Caleb's been good, but I wouldn't consider him a top 3 player on the team. But when you're out without your three, arguably probably 3 of your top 5 players, it's just, yeah, I think it just comes down to being realistic here.
Well, Elliot, you mentioned a podcast that people could check out. We'd love you to just have the floor for all the different ways that people could follow your work around the internet. Sure.
We've got Trevor McHugh from Maize and Blue Review coming on tomorrow. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but
I saw him at the tailgate. We shared a beer, and he shared some insider secrets with me. It was great. He was a little juiced up. So I won't share those on air, though, Trevor. I got you, buddy.
Trevor's the man.
Yeah, he's the homie.
Very much looking forward to talking with Trevor again. He crushes it on that Michigan beat. So we'll be recording tomorrow. That'll be up on YouTube first. It's always up on YouTube for about 12 hours before we get it up on podcasting platforms. So folks can watch that there. Subscribe to our channel. It's just Elliot Clough Rivals. Our podcast is called Hawkcast, all one word. If you want to find us on any streaming platform or Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Play, etc., and you can follow along. All of my content from iowa.rivals.com is on my Twitter. It's at Elliot Clough. Just first and last name, 1 L, 1 T, and Elliot and Clough, like rough and tough.
I just found it. Potting is winning. That's
what it used to be. That's what it used to be. That was before Rivals came in and got us. But yeah, that's us. Hawkcast. Very much looking forward to that tomorrow with Trevor, and of course heading to Indy on Friday. Going to be covering some recruits while I'm out there too. If you want to get information on them, Tyrone Burris and another kid from same high school, Damian Shanklin, out in Indianapolis. I'm thinking Damian is also a Michigan recruit, but he's a 4-star prospect on Rivals, so a guy for you guys to check out as well.
What high school are they from?
I'd have to look. That he and there were those two and another kid are Warren Central.
Yeah,
I had to think about
it. So I grew up in Indiana. Warren Central is big time football, one of the best programs in the state. Like 6A, they always have D1 kids every single year.
Yeah. So if you're an Iowa fan, if you want to check that content out, you can check out our premium content, iowa.rivals.com/subscribe. But Tyrone Burris definitely a priority for Iowa. I've been talking with him for a long time. He's going to be really good. I wouldn't be surprised to see him skyrocket up several programs boards. But I'm hoping to potentially see an Iowa or an Indiana basketball game while I'm out there as well. Trent Sisley, a really talented prospect. He's a 4-star forward out there. And oh gosh, there's another one that I'm thinking of. What's his name? There are so many recruits that I have to keep tabs on, you guys.
I believe it. I believe it. Being the recruiting analyst, I'm sure you got a lot of boards going with high schools and everything else and recruits. So, Elliot, thank you for taking some time with us on Michigan Wolverines Live to come by and give the Iowa take.
Appreciate it, guys. Hopefully we can reconnect, and hopefully I'll have a camera next time.
There you go. All right. Thanks, Elliot.
Thanks.
Oops, there we go. So now we get to take a little victory lap, Tanner, because you went to the game. And I gotta say, I've already kind of talked about it a lot on the various shows, so I'm gonna kind of give you the floor. What was it like? What was the atmosphere like? How did it? Walk me through it.
Yeah. So, started the day. Have you ever had the sensation when you wake up and you're like, did I sleep or did I just have my eyes closed for like 3 hours? Because I woke up at 2 a.m. Saturday morning and I was like, I don't know if I slept. I need that sleep. I need my brain to shut off. And so I was on my phone for 30 minutes, went back to bed, woke up at 5, got up, took the dog out, showered, grabbed everything we needed and went over to Chrysler to get to the lot, met up with Justin and all the guys at Blue by 90 and their spouses that were helping us set up. So we were set up at like 6 a.m. I saw someone comment earlier about JT Barrett. He did swing by our tailgate. That was
right. I saw that.
That did happen. Awesome. Yeah, he was. I wanted to hate him. He was the man. He was so cool. He works for the Lions now, so I was like, hey, I'm a Lions fan. We can we can level set on that. Yeah. So, but no, man, we had a great time. The Ohio State fans were super cool. That we had a couple that came through our tailgate. They were very level-headed, very logical thinkers. So, but yeah, once we got in there, man, it was. I mean, my voice is finally back, but I've had a lot of hot tea and honey the last few days because my voice was gone. And I work in sales. I need to be able to speak to people. So finally got it back a little bit here, but man, that place was jumping from the get-go. We saw the senior day festivities. Mike Sanderson's dad had a giant cutout of Mike Sanderson's head, which was amazing. That also made it to midfield after the game. So Mike Sanderson's dad somewhere down there in the mosh pit of storming the field. But yeah, man, it was amazing. I don't know if you've heard about the Zach Zinner thing with the stadium, but I can attest to that. It was unbelievable. The Let's Go Zach chants, like it went from we were all down and out to I don't know how it started, but man, that stadium was back to life. That team was back to life. They were back on their feet literally as they got up to go walk over to Zach Zinter. And then we know the next play, 22-yard touchdown for Blake Corum, throws it to 6-5. And I was like, we're winning this game, man. Michigan is winning this game. Yeah. So, yeah, it was awesome. It was one of the best moments. I mean, honestly, outside my wedding, one of the coolest days in my life. Like, I know that's cliche to say that. I don't have any children yet. Having kids will bump that down. But, yeah, outside of my wedding, that was probably my favorite day of all time. I've had some cool accomplishments individually, right? Like, I mean, I've won a high school state championship. Like, it's not that cool, but like, that's a really cool moment. But that was like unbelievable. And I don't know. I didn't do anything. I just stood there and yelled. It's kind of a weird thing to think about. Like, oh, it's one of my favorite days, but it was just so surreal, man. So yeah, I had a great time. So happy for the Michigan team, the coaches, the program, everybody associated with the Michigan football team, all the fans. Yeah, it was amazing. And all the shit that we've been drugged through over the last month plus, it just feels so good. So I'm really disappointed. I'm not seeing the same icons in the chat that I was for the last few weeks. So I don't know what happened to them, but they didn't want to come take their medicine. That's okay. Because I would have been here win or lose, by the way. I would have been here either way. So
absolutely. Hey, I was hosting the Voice of College Football official main channel post game show for after Mark finished, and I was doing that win or lose. So
yeah,
that could have been a really different experience.
Mark shows up.
Rod Moore,
Mark has showed up the last 3 years.
Yeah,
that's 3. You know what I mean?
3. Yep.
Also. So can we talk real quick? I know we don't. This is more in a funny light, I think. But the Connor Stallions, Dave Portnoy stuff, dude. So that's Connor Stallions. I don't know, if anybody doesn't know that, but that's absolutely Connor Stallions. So he's at the Barstool tailgate. He's doing the pizza reviews, and it's hilarious because every single pizza review that Dave did in Detroit, he's posting the video, and you can see inside the pizzeria or the pizza shop. Connor Stallions throws on sunglasses at night and then walks right behind him every time. It's so planned and coordinated. I really think he's going to get a job at Barstool, and it's so funny.
Well, Portnoy is just such a master of creating these moments and just is obviously being a Michigan fan, just to see that, it definitely looked like Connor Stallions when he delivered the secret information up there on the table. I was definitely watching that. It was master of trolling.
I'm not plugging myself, but did you see the video that I posted today of Connor Stallions highlights?
Yeah.
That
I saw
retweeted that.
Oh, look at that.
I literally in between meetings, my wife came in and I'm like, I'm busy and I'm on my MacBook, not my work computer, and I'm on Adobe Premiere because I had this idea of how funny would it be to take all these videos and create a little film. And so yeah, so that was funny. I thought I did a pretty good job on that. I'm never gonna be a video editor for a full-time career. That stuff is hard. It took me like 30 minutes to do like a minute clip,
Yeah.
but
It's not
yeah,
easy.
the Connor Stallion stuff, man. I've kind of gone back and forth. I'm back on Team Stallions, man. You know, like this is it's crazy talk. We're not gonna talk about it, but it's just crazy what we're talking about because it clearly Saturday showed
Yeah.
and 2 Saturdays ago showed it don't matter. We didn't even have our head coach, and we're still out coaching you. Come on
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to cover that because I saw this as a tale of two coaches, right? A tale of a coach that played to not lose, tried a 52-yard field goal, and then a coach that went forward on fourth. Granted, you could say it was easier, like situations that may have been a little easier to pull the trigger on it on fourth down, but how about a Donovan Edwards halfback pass? How about Alex Orji running on the perimeter and just like blowing past the line there, like blowing past it? It was I thought he play called and made the decisions to win that game.
Yeah, Sharon Moore was coaching like the coach that wanted to win the game, and Ryan Day coached like Ryan Day, and I think we expected that. And the moment on their second drive, 4th and 1 from the 46-yard line, you punt the ball.
Yeah,
That's who you are. That is who you are. That encapsulates your program, the program that you have taken from Urban Meyer and all the folks. God, all the people that I've seen comment like that, they take such offense to saying that Ryan Day was born on third base. When we say Ryan Day was born on third base, all we mean is that he inherited a juggernaut of a football program. And yes, he has won a lot of games there, but he has not been able to take what Urban Meyer did and expand upon that success. Urban Meyer won a national championship. I don't know if Ryan Day is going to get there. I mean, if he has to beat Michigan to get to a national championship, no. If he could backdoor his way in again, maybe. But Ryan Day is Ryan Day, man. And he's going to make those decisions that just make you go. As if you're a Michigan fan, when he brought up the punt team, I was fist pumping. Like, I was stoked. I
was like, is this a fake? Is this going to be a fake?
I was looking for that too. I'm like, how do you not go for it here? Sharon Moore went for it 3 times in the first half, and they were all the correct decision. Sharon Moore called a hell of a game. I mean, he did a great job. You know, it wasn't the cleanest game, but it didn't need to be. Michigan just needed to make a couple more plays than the Buckeyes, and they did.
Yeah, and I've this is how many coaches have balanced. I mean, God, probably since the 80s, balanced head coaching duties, offensive coordinator duties, and O-line duties. Probably one of the hardest position groups to coach. He's doing all three. Can any? I don't know how you could not give him the Broyles Award. If there was one person who has been the most helpful and productive coordinator you could possibly ask for, how about head coaching 4 games out of the year?
Yeah, I mean, head coaching and play calling, I think a lot of guys do, but head coaching, play calling, and being the offensive line coach, I don't know. I mean, hell, Sam Pittman's an O-line coach and a head coach, and he stinks. So, like, I don't know. I really don't. I mean, there's not many O-line coaches becoming a head coach that I can really think of off the top of my head. You know, like, it's not typically, the most glamorous position. Like, it feels like it's not, that's not where you become a head coach from, the O-line, which kind of backwards to me, right? Like, you win from the trenches. But yeah, Sharon should certainly win the Broyles Award. He would be the second Michigan offensive coordinator to win it in 3 years, which doesn't it feel like a decade ago that Josh Gaddis won that thing in 2021? Like, hell, it feels like a decade ago to the Penn State game, man. Or it feels like years ago since the Michigan State game, this season. So, but yeah, Sharon did a hell of a job. He took care of things, and that's what you do when you're giving the keys to a Ferrari,
Absolutely.
Or maybe not a Ferrari, maybe like a Ford Raptor or something. That's a little more that's a little more apt of a comparison for Michigan football. I don't know.
There you go. And obviously defense, Rod Moore, I mean, that guy will be forever immortalized in Michigan legend now, after that play, to end that game. But Will Johnson beat Marvin Harrison Jr. And intercepted that ball. I mean, that was that matchup was awesome. I mean, I know MHJ got one move on him, but that, I mean, just defense seemed pretty on point.
I mean, we talked about this on our God. This is the third show / live show / podcast I've done today, so I can't remember. I keep them all straight.
You're good.
But one of our shows today, we talked about this was a team win, man, because not only yes, your stars like Mike Sainristil and Will Johnson and Mason Graham made plays, but Rod Moore, I would consider a star. He's been banged up in the early part of the seasons. He makes a big play. You got Quentin Johnson's name there. He makes a big play. Jalen Harrell has the pressure on the last play of the game to intercept, for that ball to be intercepted with the pressure that he forced. QJ's hit on Abuka, man, that happened literally right in front of me. Oh my God, what a player! The first thing that comes to mind is the Marcus Ray hit on David Boston in '97. I saw someone put a Sports Illustrated mock up on that photo from Saturday's game. I mean, it was super, super cool. You had a lot of guys that had played throughout the year where you're like, are they going to stick with a certain amount of players on defense at least? Is Quentin Johnson going to continue to play? Is Cam Good going to continue to play? Are these guys? But everybody got in, man. Jake Thaw had a hell of a game at punt returner. He got blasted by Zeke Berry, holds onto the ball. James Turner, transfer in from Louisville. How many of us were freaking out about Jake Moody being gone? And it's like, oh man, can we have a kicker go perfect? Yeah, James Turner's a stud from Saline, Michigan, and he kicked 3 field goals, one of them a 50-yarder. If you take any of those field goals away, it's a completely different game. Tommy Doman, right? It's a team win, man. Special teams, offense, defense. It was just so impressive to see Michigan do what they did in the manner in which they did it. And there's a ton of NFL talent on this team, but there's a lot of guys that are just really good college football players making plays, man. And there's 130 of them that contributed to this win, or however many guys are on the roster.
Yeah, and just looking at it high level, with everything going on in terms of the sign stealing and all this kind of noise and everything else, this team has been so locked in, and they faced an Ohio State team that, aside from quarterback, I would argue was they gave us their best punch of the 3 games, especially on defense. That Ohio State defense, give Jim Knowles I mean, that defense is legit, and he did that in 2 years. Boom. Changed it from a sieve, a turnstile, whatever you want to call it, to what they were doing the other day. But Michigan overcame all that to win the game.
Yeah, and Jim Knowles may be rewarded by the Duke head coaching job. Seen some rumors out there with Jim Knowles, but yeah, I'll tell you in person, that defense, man, it's impressive. JTT Sawyer looked a lot better. Tyleek Williams, Mike Hall. Denzel Burke is a dog. He's a really good football player. So they definitely have some dudes on that defense, and Michigan did just enough to win, and that's what this game really comes down to a lot. You're not going to get what it was in 21 and 22, where you're just running up and down the field for however many hundreds of rushing yards, right? You're going to have to win a close game. So yeah, Michigan, it took everybody. I mean, JJ played phenomenal. Blake was a stud. The O-line was amazing. We've talked about this Inter stuff. I hate it, but Trente, stay ready so you don't have to get ready, right? That
Next
seems
up.
That's him, man. I love Trente Jones. He, guys like him and QJ and, some of these guys that could have transferred, got more playing time. They stuck around, and they get to, what they say, those who stay will be champions, man. I know that can get a little corny or cliche, but man, it's so true with these guys. And so you've got a team full of 1-time and 2-time and 3-time potentially Big Ten champions. And, I just hope that they can add national champion to their resume, because they deserve it. So 3 more games. You win 3 more games, man, and you get to go out a legend. These guys are already legends, but you win 3 more, man. You cement that legacy. So I can't wait for Saturday. Excited to see what happens. I'm excited for Sunday. See where it all shakes out, depending on what happens. But this is a team that's got the mental fortitude, just the intestinal fortitude to go and win a national championship. Like, these are some tough sons of Bucks, man. At the end of the day, that's what this is, a tough football team. You would talk about Ryan Day yelling at Lou Holtz. No, this is a tough football team. And we don't have to say it. Michigan's coaches don't have to yell at somebody to get their point across. You watch the film, this is a tough football team, Ryan.
That I gotta say that you painted the picture well. It's always it's like the people with the giant pickup trucks with the LED lights under them, and they've got the ones with like the 90s Toyotas with the motor that makes it sound like a race car. It's like they're compensating for something. Ryan Day felt like he was compensating for something when he said, "We're tough," and it's Ohio against the world. But
yeah, I mean, that's who his program is, man. That's fourth and 2, jet sweep program. So, I don't remember exactly how many, but I know 1 4th and 1 where he said, nope. I know they had a 4th and 2. I'm pretty sure when they kicked that field goal, they let the clock wind down about 30 seconds.
Yep.
Like, what do you have to lose?
Yeah, and that guy had made a career long of 50. And they went for 52 yards.
I know he was 3 of 5 beyond 40 in his career. So it's not like he's a very reliable long field goal option. And then Sharon ices him. He makes the first one.
Yeah.
And he hooks the second one. So, yeah, I mean, Sharon Moore outcoached Ryan Day. He's got more top 10 victories in the last 3 weeks than I believe Ryan Day does as the head coach of Ohio State. So, pretty good weekend for us, John. I don't know about you, but I had a great time. And man, I miss my Buckeyes, man. They're not in here tonight. I miss them. I don't know where they went.
Yeah. I've been making the rounds and going to some of the Buckeye territory.
I feel like Mark D'Antonio. Like, where did all the Buckeyes go? All I heard for the last 11 weeks, we were in here talking about UNLV and
yep.
Same with that Notre Dame fan, man. I don't know where he went. He must have been gone after the third loss. I don't know, but we've been here the whole time, and they've been falling off, man. They've fallen off the bandwagon. I don't know what happened, but I'm sure next season when we get back on, they'll be there. They will be.
Yeah. I remember somebody was like 41-10 Rutgers and stuff like that. I mean, it's
one of the first show I ever did with you. One of the comments was like 51-48 ECU, and I'm like, brother, what? Those drugs are illegal, my man. I don't know what you got going on, but yeah, there's always some outlandish stuff. So I've learned to just take it with a grain of salt, but I do like to read it and get myself a little riled up, because then I think when I'm riled up, that's when I have my most like funny moments and like the best delivery possible. So yeah, that's why I like to read it, because then I get to be a little mouthy and it's kind of fun.
There you go. And listen, it's as Bill Belichick likes to say, on to Cincinnati, it's on to Iowa.
Absolutely. Not for me though. I'm going to continue to be watching these highlights for a little bit. So, yeah, man. So if anybody's going to be going to Indianapolis, we'll be doing a tailgate down there. I don't have the address of the tailgate right off the top of my head, but go check out the Blue by 90 Twitter. We'll have our flyer up for that. We'll be having some beer from North Peak Brewing, some of the Hail IPA, some of the Blue by 90 Game Day Ale. I know we're partnering up with some other members of Michigan Twitter that go by the Jerks. If you're familiar with these folks, they're awesome people. We did this last year, so I know we're going to be having some Penelope bourbon. We're going to have a couple TVs. Last year, they made the craziest slider sandwiches, like these burgers I've ever had. Like I was pretty lit, John, and I was like, yo, how many of those can I have? Somebody also DoorDashed a Papa John's to our tailgate last year, like 2 boxes of pizza. So we have a great time, man. Last year was right by Lucas Oil. It was like a 5-minute walk. So anybody wants to come through, say what's up. We'd love to meet you. I'd love to say hello and, shotgun a beer, do whatever, and, take a shot and celebrate Michigan. So that's what we're going to be doing this weekend. And I think the weather's supposed to be like 50 degrees too. So not too bad, man, for December. Yeah.
That's pretty good. No, you guys, Blue by 90 puts on a good tailgate. So I went to the one at the Illinois game last year at MGO Patio.
I was in Rome for that one. I was on my honeymoon, and I know we're about to get out of here, John, but I just feel like you'll appreciate this story. So that Saturday, obviously I'm thinking about Michigan football on my honeymoon in Rome, Italy, right? One of the most romantic places on earth. And it was incredible. It was the coolest place I've ever been to in my life. I'm going to be honest. It was amazing. But that Saturday, so you're 6 hours ahead, right? So the Michigan football game starts at 6 o'clock local time in Rome.
Okay.
My wife had set up a pizza making class at 6 o'clock because she didn't know. So not only did I have to find a VPN that would work, and I couldn't even use YouTube TV. I had to use like Fubo or whatever it is. So I'm making the pizza, man, and all I'm thinking is like, oh my God, what's going on back in Ann Arbor, bro? So I come back, I watched the game on tape delay, so I'm able to go through it. And then Blake gets hurt, and I'm just like, oh my God. And then, so I'm freaking out because the game was brutal. My wife she saw the score. She didn't tell me till after, but she knew they had won. And so I'm just sitting there like hyperventilating, and then they win. And I was like, when did you know that Michigan won? She's like, about an hour ago. And I'm like, you know what? I love you very much. So that was my Michigan-Illinois experience. So it sounds like yours was probably a lot better.
Oh, I mean, you couldn't write it better. That just the game and everyone around was nice and liquored up, and you all become best friends with each other. And there was one who kept going like, "Bro, what are you doing, Blue?" And that guy was interesting. And obviously, the kick. Oh, I mean. That was everything. And then it snowed like a foot. It snowed a lot afterwards. It didn't snow during the game, but then it snowed after.
We came back like that Monday. And so we came back to a bunch of snow, which in Rome, it was like 68 degrees. So we came back and I was like, damn, man. But we came back
longer,
next Saturday, John, you know what happened. We all know what happened that next Saturday in Columbus, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
We know what happened there.
Oh, yeah. Well, Tanner, always appreciate you stopping by, and definitely want to let people know all the different places where they can find you. The links are also in the chat too, so people can follow you.
Yeah, no, I'm on Twitter at Tanner Wu-Tang. I've been talking my trash this past few days. Check us out on Twitter at Blue by 90. You can check our podcast out on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast, Blue by 90. BlueBy90.com have a lot of written content. Have a lot of quotes from players and stuff. We have a team that will go to the availability for media and stuff, which is cool. So, like I said, I'm not a real journalist by any stretch. I don't pretend to be. I'm a Michigan fan, but we've got some folks that are legitimate journalists. So, and then North Peak Brewing, check them out. Hail IPA, and again, Indianapolis, come through, man. We love to hang out with everybody and meet the folks. And hey, man, 12-0. Let's get to 13-0. I'm going to wear this shirt maybe again. Maybe they'll have a new one out by the time that we do our show next Tuesday. And hopefully we're talking about 13-0 and talk about the playoff matchups.
Yeah, getting my ass all the way up to Indy isn't the easiest. I try to do one a year of like going up. I didn't do it this year, but next year I will. I'm coming. We'll figure out a tailgate and we'll do it.
There's a lot of big time home games with this new schedule too, so you got a lot to pick from.
Oh yeah, it's happening. All right, Tanner, thanks for coming by. Go Blue.
Thanks, buddy. Go Blue, man.
All right, and just a couple of housekeeping things as we wrap up today. When you're doing your shopping on Amazon, as many of us do from time to time, click the Voice of College Football link in any of the videos. We have our merch store. It's Christmas season. If people ask you, what do you want for Christmas? Why don't you let them know about the Mark Rogers Voice of College Football merch? We do have a Michigan section, so check it out here. I'm also going to post the Iowa section because we do have an Iowa section as well. for the benefit of those of you who are on the Iowa Football at Voice of College Football channel. Boom. So you got both to choose from there. Check out our merch store. We still have obviously playoff games, and we have other games coming up. If you still need your tickets for the Big Ten Championship, get them on ticketsmarter.com. Use promo code BIG for $10 off a purchase of at least $100, BIG20 for $20 off a purchase of at least $300, and that's ticketsmarter.com. So let's go through some final comments here. Everybody's saying go blue. 12-0 ain't bad. Absolutely. And we do appreciate everybody being here. Hitting the like button, subscribing if you haven't subscribed to Michigan Football, the Voice of College Football, or if you're on the Iowa channel, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to each other's channels. Let's help everybody out. Okay, let's do it. Let's help everybody out, and all of that good stuff. So that's it for me. Coming up next, we've got Oregon Ducks live. So that is at approximately 10 Eastern, and I'll post the link right here to the Oregon Ducks live show. Looks like they've got it at 10:05 is when it's going to be starting. So everybody, head on over. Tell them John sent you when you head on over there. John from the Michigan show sent you. And thanks, Moose, for doing that. So that's right. Coming up next, we've got Oregon Ducks Live, and that's with Exploring with Ben and a cast of characters. They're going to, obviously, Oregon is potentially a playoff team. They were ranked number 5 in the college football playoff rankings. So they're a team to watch out for and definitely listen into their show. Next show I'm going to be on is going to be Saturday for Michigan Postgame Live after the championship game is over. Hopefully we'll have Dre back, and we'll give you our takes on what we thought happened in the game. Hopefully positive things happened in the game. Fingers crossed. But that'll be my next show. I also host the Ocho, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern every Monday night. Usually, sometimes we shift it around, but that's part of our Big Ten live block. And any final comments? Thank you, Moose. Go blue, and go blue to everybody in chat. We're excited. Yes, the trophy ceremony where Petiti has to give the Big Ten championship trophy to Jim Harbaugh. It's only a few days away, just 4 days away from that beautiful moment, like hoping all, knock on wood, but that beautiful moment that's coming where Tony Petiti is going to have to give that trophy to Jim Harbaugh. That's going to be wonderful. All right, y'all. Stay tuned for Oregon. My name is John D'Adamo again. Follow me on Twix at John D'Adamo. And until next time, everybody, go blue. Beat Iowa.